In this video, you should have a fully dimensioned trapezoid. We can see that it has equal angles that are symmetrical from the left side to the right side. We have a center line moving down that point. There are many different ways to do this. There are faster and there are slower. Whatever way to end up with the same product is up to you. I recommend following these videos to the best of your ability so that you understand a very direct way to complete your stool so that we can actually cut this out on our CNC machine and then you can have a nice stool to take home with you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reopen my sketch. So I'm going to double click on sketch on the left in the tree, sketch 1, and this reopens. From here I'm going to zoom out and then back in to kind of center on the top of this sketch. Okay, the bottom doesn't really matter right now, we're just using that top portion. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a rectangle that sticks above here. I could use just my simple corner rectangle tool. What I'm actually going to use to help center this a little bit more is I'm going to use the drop down arrow. I'm going to select the center point rectangle. This will give us some extra lines, but we can trim those off later as we will need to trim them anyways. So I'm going to select center point rectangle. Now I'm going to pick my first point, which is going to be the center of the rectangle. I'm going to select the center point of the top horizontal edge where the top horizontal line and the center line meet. I'm going to click, I'm going to drag this out a little ways, kind of even between both. You can see it's fully blue because we don't know how big it is, we don't know where it is. We get these rough dimensions. Doesn't matter if yours is bigger or smaller. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to add our dimensions. We can come up and use that dimension tool as our leader lines and our extension lines. Use our shortcut key D on your keyboard and you don't even have to look for it. Okay. From here what we're going to do is we're going to set the height of our rectangle. From this horizontal top edge of the trapezoid, we want to click once, and then to the top of this we want to click once. This distance should be the same distance or maybe slightly smaller than the thickness of your plywood. We are using 3/4 inch plywood. If our plywood that we are using for class is not actually 3/4 of an inch, then we may have to adjust this later, and it's a simple change that will update all of our drawings. I'm going to click once, I'm going to set this to 0.75, click enter, and it adjusts the height of that rectangle. It's actually equal above and below that line because we use the center point. Okay. From here, what we want to do is we want to set the length of our rectangle. If we look back at my previous model, we have from our center line to the edge is 4.5 inches. Well, if it's 4.5 in one direction, it's going to be 4.5 in the next, which will total 9 inches. I'm going to select my dimension tool. If it's already blue, I don't have to change anything. Select that center line. Select one of my outer vertical edges. Move this dimension up off the object and set this to 4.5. Enter. You can see that it already changed this. Everything's black, so I don't need to add in that 9 inches. Because we're using that center line, it's symmetrical, left and right, top and bottom. I'm going to click escape on my keyboard. I'm going to grab that 0.75 and I'm going to just move it. Make sure it's off so that we can actually read this. If you can't read it between the arrows, you might have to put it just outside, but it's still showing those drafting standards that we need to follow. Next, what we want to do is we want to trim out some of the stuff that we don't need. So I'm going to click on the scissors, or M is our shortcut key, and then I'm going to click what I want to get rid of. So I'm going to click all of the lines inside of my rectangle and below. You can see that we're left with 2 dots or points from the bottom of that rectangle that we had created. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click escape on my keyboard. I'm going to just highlight these. Remember that if I click and I drag from left to right, it's going to select anything inside that box. If I click and drag right to left, it selects anything that box touches. And I'm just clicking delete or backspace on my keyboard. We do need to add the 9 inches so that this line is fully defined. It's just my little mistake. So I'm going to select dimension, top line, move this all the way up, 9, enter, and we're good to go.